I don't even have words to say anymore. Like, how many times do we have to go through this? We gotta change this background. Was this week 4? I've been saying that this gotta be changed. What have you been working on this whole time in the last 4 weeks? Right? Have you been editing the movie you were supposed to be editing that's supposed to come out December 25th? Have you been doing any of that? Because I clearly see you haven't been doing this, so you better have a good excuse as to what the hell is going on. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but it's been 4 weeks now, and this... I don't know if this is gonna cut it. Ladies and gentlemen, with all of that put aside, how are you all doing today? It is Tuesday. We're back at our regularly scheduled time. We're back to doing what we do best. Quick note, as for next week, I can guarantee you this background will not be here, simply due to the fact that next week we'll have a special 3 rounds with Jay that will be taking place no longer in Canada, but for one time only, we will be taking place from the beautiful Punta Cana. I will have an all-new and very special edition of 3 rounds with Jay coming next week. So this background, you've got a week to work on it. Make something happen here. I don't even care if you put like letters and stuff. Well, with all of that said, I hope you enjoyed your weekend. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you're going to have a great week to come. I know it's Tuesday. I know it's still the beginning of the week, but we're getting close to the weekend. Try not to be too down on yourself. Make that money, get to the weekend, and enjoy yourselves. I would just like to take this time to say, for those of you who have been following me, or for the thousands of followers that I happen to have on Instagram, for those of you who followed my post this Saturday, congratulations, you made some money. The picks were in 4-0. Oh, I just cleaned up house. Valentina Shevchenko, Max Holloway. Who else did I have up there? Thiago Santos and Gunnar Nelson. Money picks, ladies and gentlemen. I gave you money picks. For the few who happened to see it, I saw the few that did see it. I really hope you placed those bets and you made that money. I sure as hell know I did. And for the past couple of weeks, I have been giving you nothing but money picks. So if you're not listening, start listening, folks. Start opening up your ears, because I'm making you money and you just don't seem to want it. So with that said, we're going to get into the first round. I know I'm mumbling up my words a little bit, but we're going to get this smoothed out. And just because I'm so excited for the week that we had, for the fights that we had this past weekend, UFC 231, and for the events that are upcoming this weekend and this Friday, I'm overall just simply overjoyed. I cannot wait. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we need to get ourselves into round 1. I don't want to let this go on for a lot longer than it has, so let's do just that. Let's jump right into round number 1. We're breaking down UFC 231, what went down. I know I gave you the results right off the bat, but let's talk about what these results meant, and let's recap the events that took place at UFC 231, live from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, from the formerly known as Air Canada Centre, but now I believe it's called the Rogers Centre. One of the two, whatever they keep changing the name, it's still the ACC to me. Let's jump into round number 1. Round number 1, we've got a historic event to cover. It was UFC 231 that took place live, like I said, from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The Rogers Centre, the ACC Centre, whatever it's called right now. I should have done my homework, but I didn't, but that's too bad. That's the way things are done these days. It was Max Holloway, the UFC undisputed featherweight champion of the world. There are no interim titles necessary. This is the man that runs the place. This is the man who is currently 12-0. He, not 12-0 undefeated, he is 12-0 in his last 12 fights since having lost to Conor McGregor back in 2006, I believe. No, that's not 2012, I'm sorry. Since 2012, I believe he has been undefeated and on a tear. This is something unprecedented. This is something never before seen. And last night, he took on his toughest challenger to date in Brian T-City Ortega, who was walking in at 13-0 and the ultimate challenge for his championship fight. It was a battle between 2 undefeated fighters. Now, like I said leading up to this fight, when I was predicting it, I thought if this fight continue to stay standing. If the main focus of this fight was a stand-up battle, Max Holloway was going to have the better of the exchanges simply because of his pressure and constant ability to keep on striking and never really, what seems like, ever get tired. This is something that Max Holloway has improved over the years. It is his cardio. It is his main focus. His strength and conditioning has been key in every single one of his fights, including the fight that he did lose to against Conor McGregor. He was on point even though he was down. He was always aware of what was going on. He was always fully attentive. He was always full of energy and ready to explode. That fight played out a little bit differently since Max happened to be on the ground, but since then, Max's ground game has improved, and he proved this in taking on Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega did the exact thing that I said he should do. Sure, he spent a lot of it standing up, but when he attempted each and every single one of his takedown attempts, Max was either able to capitalize on his great ability of keeping the fight standing and his balance, or he was able to get back to his feet when taken to the ground, basically negating the takedown. This is something that Max Holloway did tremendously in this fight. He was able to stop almost all of Brian Ortega's forward advancement and movements. Anything that Brian did to try and bring this fight to the ground and use his jiu-jitsu to get it to the ground in order to secure a submission, Max Holloway was game for. He was able to stop any attempt possible. He was able to keep the fight standing, and it was able to land the majority of the shot. In total, at the end of the CompuStrike numbers, I believe Max Holloway landed in between the range of 250 punches to 300 strikes landed. These are not the strikes that missed. Brian Ortega, that's not to say that he did not do anything either. In the third round, he was able to badly hurt Max Holloway. He had him to the point where a lot of people thought that there was a chance that we were going to see a new champion, and there was no way that Max was going to be able to recover from this because he took some heavy damage. Here's the thing. Even though that Brian Ortega's stand-up is not at an elite level yet, he has the power in his hands to make you go to sleep. We saw that with Frankie Edgar, who he happened to knock out, someone who's never been finished in his MMA career. We saw that against Max Holloway, where he had him rocked and wobbly, but the simple mistake he made in the third round, and it was something I pointed out to those who were watching it with me, was that Brian Ortega took his foot off the gas and backed away. There was a moment in the third round, if you go back and watch this, and this is a fight of the year. This is up there Canada-wise for fight of the year. It is worth watching. I am telling you, I give you recommendations to check out fights. A lot of you probably don't do, but it's really worth watching this fight due to the fact that it was a back and forth battle. In this third round, what I was trying to get at is you see Max Holloway at one point, when Brian Ortega takes his foot off the gas, there's about a minute that passes, and you see Max is not striking. You see Brian is waiting, and what Max is doing at this time is he's waiting and relaxing. He's getting the brain back into focus. He's trying to refocus as to what's going on. He just got discombobulated by several hard strikes, and now he's got to get back into his movement, his groove. He's got to calm down and relax. He's got to get the mind and the eyes and everything to start to focus. And you notice there's a moment in the fight where Max simply just shakes it off. And when he shakes it off, it was at that moment I knew he was okay. Like, he wasn't 100% okay, but he was getting back into the movement. And after that minute passed, he shook it off. Brian came a bit forward, but you notice that Max started going back full force. It was not one punch at a time, it was full 5 combo punches at once. And you knew at that very moment that Max was back in control. Brian missed his opportunity to finish this fight. Max takes this fight in the 4th round, which is something incredible. He went to the corner, he went to Joe Rogan, and he said, "Joe, I'm finishing this fight right now." He even looked at his son, who was afraid after that 3rd round, who was frightened for his father's well-being. He looked at Joe and he said, "I'm finishing it." Brian Ortega, the fight ended exactly in the 4th round on the stool. The referee, the judge, once again, the doctor stopped the fight. He could not allow Brian Ortega to continue. That 4th round was legitimately a massacre. It was a one-sided beating by Max Holloway. You would have seen that 3rd round. You would have not have expected Max to come out in that 4th round the way he did. This was a man possessed. This was like a zombie coming at you, and you couldn't stop him. He was on another level, another gear that is simply frightening to think of, because there is not another man in this division of the featherweight that could take this kind of punishment, or can go this, or can even stand to Max Holloway. There's not a guy yet who has come to fix and solve the problem of Max Holloway. I don't see anyone in the division yet. He's talking about moving to 155, which might be a huge daunting task, and it's something that I'm excited for. Just the idea, the thought of seeing him against the likes of a Khabib, or the likes of a Tony Ferguson, or a potential rematch against Conor McGregor. This is money, and this is fight of the year candidate material. So Max Holloway defeats Brian Ortega in the 4th round by a doctor stoppage that took place on the stool. Your co-main event of the evening was Valentina Shevchenko taking on Joanna Jedrzejczyk for the vacant Flyweight Championship of the world. Valentina Shevchenko took this fight to a decision. She won it simply the way I expected her to do, on points. She was the better fighter between the two, proving that in her ability to take Joanna to the ground and ability to strike against Joanna and get in and out of the movement. It was something you saw. Valentina would wait, and Joanna would come in and then she would counter. She was throwing that front kick to keep her distance and to get Joanna. Whenever Joanna would come in, Valentina was prepared to offer a counter. It was an interesting chess match that Joanna was not able to, basically, in the 5th round, to overcome or to solve. The corner and the coaches were not prepared for this. For Joanna, this is her 3rd loss in 4 fights. This is something that she's now going to have to reevaluate, potential maybe a camp change, or just a change in style of fighting, because this weight has now been solved by Rose twice, and now Valentina Shevchenko. Technically, this would be the 4th time that Valentina has solved it. They fought 3 previous times in Muay Thai. I know it doesn't count, but at this point, Valentina holds a 4-0 series victory over Joanna Jedrzejczyk. This is something that Joanna's going to have to take back to the board and reconfigure and figure out what she can do to improve. With that being said, that was a recap of UFC 231 live from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We're moving on to round number 2, where we've got some fights to break down. We've got some Bellator and some UFC events. Let's head to it. Let's get to round number 2.